Well, welcome to this week's ATL Home Market. We're glad that you're joining us. I'm Ira Miskin. I'm managing broker and team leader for your home sold guaranteed realty in the Miskin team, along with Stephanie Miskin, our co-team leader. And we've got a really interesting program for you this week, I think, because it really focuses on something that every single person in the market that's thinking about what to do about a home thinks about. And it doesn't matter whether you're somebody who's a renter and thinking about buying a home, or you bought a home before, or you're living in a home and you want to buy a bigger home, or you want to downsize for the home. These three questions that people continually ask themselves are, for some people, they're really, problems, but they really are good questions to ask that have some pretty good answers and solutions to make the next steps of how you go ahead and purchase that home much more simple than you think. But before we jump into all of that, Steph's going to take a couple of minutes to tell you about what's really nifty going on in Metro Atlanta this week, things that you can enjoy and that you can have fun with.
Hey everybody. Okay, yes. Well, it's not just this week. I've decided that since it's summertime and we have so much downtime with the kids being around and everything, that I was going to look for adventures that pretty much go on all summer. So the first one I came up with is the Roswell Summer Puppets and More. And this is really cool. It is at the Roswell Cultural Arts Center. And all during the month of June and July, they have shows for kids. And for example, the first one this weekend is going to be Pinocchio, and it's a puppet show for kids. It's whimsical and wonder. It's going to be a whole series, and that one was about Pinocchio. And then the next one is going to be, I believe, it's a magic show for kids. What fun! And it goes on. There's one on June 19th. There's one on the 26th. On July the 10th, they're going to have the Big Bad Little Red Pig show. Again, a puppet show. And then on July the 17th to the 19th, it's going to be Adventures in Space. So and the other thing about it is the tickets are only $7. So look it up online. You can reserve your tickets online. Go to the Roswell Cultural Arts Center and look up the Summer Puppets and More. So that's number one. Number two, this is a great place, and if you haven't visited it ever, you should check it out. It's the Chattahoochee Nature Center. It's over in East Cobb, and it is a wonderful place to go. And one of the exhibits that they have this summer, and it's all summer long, is a butterfly exhibit. And this is just join hundreds of live soaring butterflies, which you can have photo opportunities, bring your camera. They let you have nectar on your hands, so the butterflies land on your hands. It's a great place. It's a 127-acre nature center on the Chattahoochee River in pretty much East Cobb. And their mission is basically to connect people with nature. So the butterfly exhibit is the one thing that I think the kids are going to love doing, and it's in its 12th year of doing it. But they have lots of other things going on there that you should check out, again, all summer long, all year long, actually. But they're going to have river canoe trips where they're going to teach you how to work a canoe, and there's going to be family canoe trips, all kinds of stuff going on there. The admission is not very expensive. It's like $20 for adults and either $14 or $16 for children. So again, check that out. It's the Chattahoochee Nature Center, and check out the butterfly encounter. I think that would be a lot of fun to take the kids to. And the last thing we want to talk about is, I told you I was going to talk about state parks. And this particular state park is in Walton County. The name of the park is Hard Labor Creek State Park. And this park is a beautiful park. And the one thing that is a little bit different about this park than a lot of the other ones is they have equestrian trails. So you can bring, if you're a horse person, you can bring your horses. They have shelters and campgrounds and campsites and stables. So you can actually go down there, stable your horse, and then go on these unbelievable trail rides with your horse. We used to have horses, and we did this many years ago. Stayed in the cabins, brought the horses down, went on the trail rides. I mean, it is totally beautiful. Alongside that, this has just got everything else that a regular state park has. It's got sand beaches. It's got a huge lake. You can go boating. You can go fishing. They have golfing. There's golf courses there. There's off-road biking. It's a wonderful park. It's the lake itself is 48 acres. And Lake Bradley, actually two lakes in there. Lake Bradley is 48 acres and Lake Rutledge is 274 acres. So this park is in Walton County. It is just the same to get into as all the other state parks. Of course, if you're staying there, you're going to pay for the cabin and all of that. But check it out. So now I've told you about this one, which is located between Madison and Covington off of I-20. So, it takes about an hour and a half to get there if you were downtown Metro Atlanta. It would take about an hour and a half to get there. And the other park that I told you about was Red Top Mountain State Park, which is up in Ackworth on Lake Allatoona. So again, different parks, different facilities, but this place, if you have a horse, you definitely should go out there. It's a fabulous place. So that's what I got for you today. And they're all summer and they go all year round with activities. And that's what I got.
So it's one of the most amazing things about Atlanta and the Atlanta metro area, because we're in the foothills of the mountains. There is great urban center. There's wonderful suburban communities that surround the urban center. And you don't have to go very far to be connected to what is part of the mountaintops and some of the most beautiful physical environments in the entire United States. You have mountains, you have valleys, you have lakes, and so many different ways in which you can enjoy the outdoors and just be within an hour or an hour and a half of the center of the city of Atlanta. Makes living here in the Southeast and making Metro Atlanta one of the best places, I think, having lived in a lot of different sections of the United States, one of the best places to live in the entire country. And when you live here, one of the things that you want to do is to explore what the best communities are and what the best physical environment is for you to live in. And part of that is the decision about whether or not you should own a home or a townhome or a condo, and what that means and what the difference is between being an owner and being a renter. But one of the big questions that everybody asks is, should I buy now or should I wait? And again, it doesn't matter whether you're already a homeowner and you're thinking, gee, the house has become too small. We've lived here for a while. We really need a different kind of community. We need different schools, or we need a bigger physical home. Or you're downsizing. You've got a bigger house and you've lived there for a long time, and now you're ready for a smaller, more convenient home. The big question always comes up, not, can I sell my home? Because in the Atlanta market, everything sells. It's whether or not you can make that decision by thinking is this the best time for me to buy and sell? Should I do it now or should I wait? And, um, we look at it and we say, especially if you're somebody who does not own a home right now, waiting is, just sitting there and thinking, lightning will strike and something wonderful will change. There are good reasons to wait. Um, you know, um, I have, a job change coming and I'm not sure what to do. Um, the baby is due in 3 months and we're not sure, really what kind of community we want to be in. But other than drastic things, waiting is really something that anybody who knows and understands real estate doesn't use as a word. Real estate investors buy homes no matter what the marketplace is, whether it's a so-called buyer's market or it's a so-called seller's market, whether interest rates are up or down, whether house prices are going up or they're going down, because they know and they understand that the value of that property is not in that first moment. It's how it grows and it adds value to you financially and physically and sometimes emotionally over the course of the time of owning that property. And, Stephanie has really bumped into that sort of thing a bunch when she's been out there. When people ask her about, okay, if I was going to do this now, what kind of program should I use or should I use it or how could I do this or what could I do? Stephanie, what are some of the things that you talk to people about when they're sitting in that big, they put their I'm concerned hat on and sure whether they should buy now or they should wait?
Well, one of the things I always tell them is owning property is always better than renting property. When you rent property, you are paying somebody else's mortgage. You are helping somebody else build equity. You are helping somebody else save on their taxes. So, in my opinion, it's never, ever, ever a good idea to rent. Now, there are always considerations that one has when especially if they're a first-time home buyer. The whole process, scares them. And so the first thing I tell them is, all right, look, let's find out where you stand financially. That's number one. Let me get you with a really good lender. All right. So that they can look at your finances and come back to us and tell us what is a comfortable place for you to be financially and what price range we should look in. Because one thing I never want to do to anybody is put them in a house that they can't afford. That's a terrible situation. So it's my job to guide them. And, I always tell them, that is the beauty of working with a team. I'm like I'm the surgeon and the lender is the anesthesiologist. We work together. Everybody has an expertise. I cannot propose to tell them everything there is to know about what kind of loans there are out there because that's not my side of the business. So my job is to guide them to a lender who's then going to come back, give us all this information, and now we know, okay, so you might want to be and love the HGTV house that costs $500,000 and it's your first home and you're like, I got to have it. No, you don't. You can't afford it. And I'm not going to put you in a house that you can't afford. So let's look at the first house that's maybe a little smaller house as a stepping stone to use that house to build equity and then sell that house and then make your next house be the bigger house that you want. So it's a process that I go through with my clients.
And there's always questions about, how do you manage this? Some of it has to do with finances, and we're going to spend a little bit of time in a few minutes digging into a bit more detail about that. But see, there's two sides to this. First side is, what can I do to be able to have the money that's necessary in order for me to make that purchase? and what kind of programs, as Stephanie said, are out there. And again, that's why, as a team, we work with lenders that can look at your finances, look at what you're needing with that house that or that condo or that townhome that you would like to buy, and put the two of those elements together so that you can figure out what the finances are. Sometimes people say, well, Josh, right now I'm paying $1,600 a month for rent. I really don't want to spend any more than $1,600 a month. Well, that's fine, because you can look at what does a mortgage and the things that are included in the mortgage, what amount is necessary for that $1,600 a month to cover. That tells you how expensive or inexpensive the home is that you need to buy. So you can match those kinds of things up. There are also programs where in the first year or two, you can actually, it's called the buy down, you can actually, with an extra couple of dollars, buy down the interest rate so that in the first year or two, you're paying less than you would in interest, even though your equity continues to grow at the same rate. And then you say, oh my gosh, interest rates are so high. Well, they're 6.5 one day, and they're 6.25 another, and they're 6.75 another. They are what they are. One of the great mortgage lenders that we work with, and we're going to have them come visit us in a couple of weeks on this podcast, are the folks from Nexa Mortgage, who work with a wide variety of home lenders that have a great many programs that fit all kinds of circumstances. And one of the things that they offer is their 24-month refi guarantee, which is really interesting because nobody else in the business does that. It's, let's say you buy a house this year and your interest rate is 6.5%, which is fixed forever. But next year, something extraordinary happens and interest rates drop to 5%. You can refinance your home, and with Nexa, refinance your home at almost no cost to drop your interest rate from 6.5% to 5%. And then for the rest of the time in that loan, pay less than you were actually paying when you first purchased the home. And you know what? If interest rates go down again, you can refinance the home again. And if they go up, you're always at that same interest rate. So those kinds of concerns. Where do I need to be? What's the best environment for me? Do I get a bigger home or a smaller home? What are the costs involved? And oh my gosh, what's going on in the world? Will the Russians invade? Well, probably not. But people worry about that. Oh my gosh. Um, will the interest rates go to 10%? Well, if they do and you buy a home now, you win. And if they don't, you still win. What about hurricanes? What about anything you can think of is something that could get you to say, well, no, I'll just wait. And as Stephanie has said, the longer you wait, particularly if you're paying rent, the more you're doing your landlord, who loves the idea of you renting his home, a great favor, because he's not only paying his mortgage, but getting the benefit of all of the tax breaks, making a profit on that rent, and gaining equity in that home so that when he decides to sell it for more than he paid for it, he wins and you have to go find another place to live. So take all that into consideration where you're thinking about, well, should I wait? Or I don't know, when should I buy? Now is always the best time.
And even if you buy a house and life changes, I mean, our first house, for example, we bought that house. We were living in Chicago, and we bought a house out in the burbs, Oak Park, where all the old Frank Lloyd Wright houses were, but we didn't have an old Frank Lloyd Wright house. We had a nice little, I think it was 3-bedroom, 1 bath, or 2-bedroom, 1 bath. I don't remember. But anyway, we paid $39,000 for it, right? I mean, it was many, many years ago, but still, it was $39,000. It was our first home. It was a lot of money. And we got an opportunity to come to Atlanta like a year and a half later. I think it was maybe 2 years max. And I felt like, oh, yeah, we just bought this house. We're stripping the wood and we're making this and we're doing that. And now we're moving. Well, yeah, but what did we double the price of that house when we sold it, Ira?
We bought the house for $39,000, and 2 years later, we sold it for $68,000.
Right. 2 years later. So we made a nice profit. And then when we came to Atlanta, we had all that money to put down on a house here. Had we not, had we stayed in the apartment, I don't know what would have happened. But we
If
took
we
the
come
jump.
to Atlanta, and we would have been in an apartment because we wouldn't have had at that time in
Right.
our life, in our our early working career, we
Right.
wouldn't have had enough money to put down, because in those days you had to have 20% to put down. You know, it's still, and this is really interesting. When we talk to people, particularly first time home buyers, they say, well, I have to save money. I don't have enough money. I want to buy a house for, that's big enough for, my whole family. And it looks like it's going to cost maybe $400,000. And I got to save 20% in order for me to buy that house. Well, that's not true. Yes,
No, there
if
are
you put
options
20%
now.
down, that's great. But you do not need 20% down to buy a home. There are, across the board, a whole range of programs that enable people with relatively small amounts of money to be able to get a good, steady loan at a good interest rate and not have to bring an enormous sum of money to the table to buy that home. And Steph, again, when you're talking with people and advising our agents, particularly when they're working with first time home buyers, what are the kinds of things that we tell our team they should be talking to home buyers about, and for them to think through when it comes to what you need and how much money you need in order to go ahead and get a loan to buy that home?
Well, I mean, do you mean what are the important things when they're looking for a house, or what are the things that they need to do within their life in order to financially afford a house? What are you getting at?
Well, I think how they need to think about um, uh, what they need, how much they need, how that's going to impact on them, what the monthly costs are going to be, how to get them to kind of think through those things, and who is necessary to help them to get that information so that they become comfortable with the best way for them to achieve that loan.
Yeah, well, that's where the loan officer comes in with that relationship. Let's literally look at their finances. It's not only what your credit score is. That's not the only thing that they look at. They look at your debt to income ratio. They look at how much you make. They look at how much you spend. I mean, we have people that come to us that make a lot of money. And, say they make $200,000 a year, which is, it's a nice paycheck, but they spend $250,000 a year. So we have to educate them and say, look, we get it. You make a lot of money, but you spend every single penny and more. And if you want to get into a house, you're going to have to make some adjustments. Well, I really want to buy a car. Well, that's great, but I don't want you buying a car now. Let's get you into a house. Otherwise, you can sleep in your car. So we have to educate them on what they should do and not do regarding their finances, and that's something that is not taught in school. All right, that's kind of like life. That's a life lesson, and nobody teaches you this stuff in school. So we have to kind of go through that with them, and then we have to have realistic expectations. You might be at a $300,000 price point, which would allow you to make your home, make your house payment. It'll allow you to have enough money to eat, allow you to put the kid in daycare, et cetera, et cetera. So you're not house poor. But you might have $400,000 taste. You know, you might be watching HGTV and say, well, I want that, I want this, I want that. Well, you're not going to get that at that price range. And we know that. Our realtors know that. My staff knows that. So don't bring somebody into a house they cannot afford. Because if you do, they will never be emotionally ready to accept the fact that they have to buy the less expensive house because they have the champagne taste and they don't have the champagne pocketbook. So that is really, really, it's an emotional thing that is a realtor doesn't find that out first and they start bringing people around. Say, well, I want to look at this house at 600,000, and then you find out they can only afford a $300,000 house. They're not going to be happy. They're not going to do it. They're going to keep paying the landlord's rent and hurt themselves financially in the long run.
And that's, called setting expectations, as Stephanie said. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, and really take a deeper look at it, because very often, and again, it doesn't matter whether you're buying a home because you're a renter and want to stop paying rent, or you need to move up, or you need to downsize. There's still the vision of, I'm buying my dream home. And we're going to talk about that, and how buying that dream home is not just a dream, but there's a process involved that can help you so that ultimately you do really have your dream home. But in order to do that, for most people, unless you have a nice big pot of money sitting under your bed, you're going to need to achieve a home loan. And not needing that 20% down became huge when programs like the government managed HUD program called FHA came into existence, where you could purchase a home for 3.5% down as your down payment. That saved 16.5%, or a huge sum of money that enabled people, and people use this all the time. It's one of the most often used home loans, both because you need a relatively small amount of money to buy that home, and it also tends to have the best interest rates associated with it. But there are also loans that are called 3% down conventional loans. There's loans that are zero down payment. If you're a current person in the military, or a former military, you can buy a home with zero down. There's also a great program. It's called the USDA program. It's a federal program where, and this is not in every community, if you are going to buy a house and be a little bit further out from the city, suburbs and beyond suburbs, in a great many sections around Metro Atlanta, the USDA loan is also a zero down payment loan. You don't need any money to put down on that loan. There's a huge lender, they're called United Wholesale Mortgage, that periodically does special programs for people, particularly people who are in their first urges of buying homes, or they're in their lower income brackets, where they will do a subsidy. If you can bring 1% down payment, they will actually put the other 2% into a conventional loan, so that you have a 3% down payment, and United Wholesale Mortgage will pay that extra 2%. So now you buy a home, let's say for $300,000, and all you need for your down payment is $3,000. And UWM will put up the other $6,000. So now you have your 3%, and you can go ahead and buy a home. So there's really, unless you have some pretty big financial issues that you have to fix, you've trashed your credit and you have to rebuild your credit score. And if you remember, a few weeks ago, we had the folks from Trinity here with us. Those are people who specialize in helping folks rebuild their credit. Um, or if you're just thinking, if I could just have a little bit more money, I could move up to a higher priced home, which gives me that fourth bedroom. All of these sorts of things managed with what the costs are and decisions about where you want to live. If you want to live a little bit further out from the center of Atlanta and take advantage of that zero down USDA program, you can buy a $400,000 house for no money down as long as you can afford the monthly payments. So you're not trapped, even if you don't have a great deal of money. And for some people, you may not have any down payment money. There are special programs, a great many of them, some of them very local, some of them national, that are called down payment assistance programs. And those programs help people buy homes with literally no money. And there's just lots of ways that these different programs are applied. Chef, you remember the couple that we helped, and goes back a while ago, probably 10 or 15 years ago, when we learned how to utilize the VA program, where you helped that couple to be able to buy a house for zero down and also get all of their closing costs paid, so that they literally got what they called the house of their dreams, which I think they still live in,
Yeah, I think
with
so.
no money at all down.
Right. Yeah, they came to the table with no money. They didn't have any down payment. I got them closing costs. The only thing they had to pay for was movers and to get their electricity and their garbage and stuff like that set up. But yeah, I did that, and they're still in the house. I know who you're talking about.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
That's the wonderful thing about being able to find a team that has the resources and the people necessary for you to make a plan, so that you're not stuck worrying about, should I buy now? Should I buy later? Oh my gosh, I can't buy now because I don't have enough money. Because very often you can match, if you know what your expectations are, the timing and the cost of buying the home. But the third thing that people are concerned about is, what if I can't find my dream home? Well, what is a dream home? A dream home could just be, oh my gosh, I bought my first home. It's a dream come true. I'm now my own landlord. I'm paying me to live in this house. And that could be the dream. Or it could be, I want to have $1 million home with 6 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms and a pool in the backyard. And that's my dream. And maybe because you can't buy that right off, you just don't buy a home. But Steph, we've helped a lot of people over the years step through the process so that ultimately they end up in what it is that they have always had a vision for, which was their dream home.
Right. Yeah. It's really important. What's that old song? You might only get what you want, but you get what you need.
If
You
you
know that
can't get
song?
what you want, you can get what you need. You can't always get
Right.
what you want, you get what you need. Rolling Stones, yeah.
The Rolling Stones, right? If you can't always get what you want, but you can get what you need. You know, it's such a fine line, and sometimes it takes a little hand holding, and it's okay. Your next house will have that, or you know, you got to get out of this rental situation. So let's get you the best that you can afford. And that's really what I do. It's like, okay, so we have a limited budget. This is whatever it is, whatever the budget is. Let's work within that budget. Let's get you the best home in that budget. And another thing that I would tell my clients is, this isn't HGTV. We're not going to walk into every house and we're going to go, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. I'm going to tell you the positives and I'm going to tell you the negatives. Example, you walk into a house and they love it, right? They like it, whatever. And there's a railroad running behind the house. And I'm going to say to them, you shouldn't buy this house. Well, why not? Because there's a train running behind the house. Yeah, but I love the train. I grew up, there was a train running behind my house. I'm like, look at, unless you're buying this house and this is the last house you're ever going to buy in, and you're going to tell me you're going to die in this house, you're going to have to sell that house. And when you go to sell that house, 9 out of 10 people do not have a train in their backyard when they were growing up. And that's going to be immediate turnoff. And we're going to have a really hard time selling this house. So I bring all of this stuff to the table so that not only do they get what they need, but they understand that this is a stepping stone. You want the $500,000 house. I get it. Right now, you can't afford the $500,000 house. So let's buy the $300,000 house that has as much as we can possibly get that you want, and that we know when you get ready to move up to the $500,000 house, we can sell this. So that's kind of some of the, which a lot of realtors don't do. I mean, a lot of realtors just want to make a sale. I don't want to make a sale. I want to make a client for life. I want to make a friend for life. Most of the people that I sold property to became our friends. They came to my daughter's wedding because I treated them like they were family. And I wanted to get them the best deal, the best financial situation that they could be in, and something that we knew down the line, if they wanted to sell it, they were going to be able to sell it quickly, and have a lot of equity in it, and it wasn't going to be a hardship.
And that's really at the heart of the plan. You see, we want to have a home that we love. And frankly, any house that I own, that I can come home to, that I can be comfortable in, that I can hang pictures on the wall if I want. I can paint, an accent wall purple if I want.
I can have a dog.
I can have a dog. I can have 2 cats. I can have a bird. I can have fish. I can.
No one's telling you.
Yeah. I can live in my home, not occupy this home. And it's very different. But if you also look at your home as an economic opportunity, if you look at your home as the one thing that you can be sure is, as long as you take care of that property, treat it the way it should be treated, it will be worth more someday in the future when you sell it than when you purchased it. And that it becomes a long-term bank account for you to use in all kinds of different ways, to use for retirement money, to use to be able to take a home equity loan to pay for your children's college education. There's an emergency and you need money in order to deal with that emergency. Or you just feel, I would like to have the assurance that at any time when I need to have sufficient monies for me to do what I choose as I age, one of the great opportunities for saving money is the equity value of your home. And so what we do is we try to get people to understand, and many people do, that just because you bought a house this year doesn't mean it's the last time you're ever going to purchase a home. That if you buy a house this year for $300,000 and it only has 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, but it has a basement, it has a nice backyard, and it's in a community that has nice people, and the schools are good for my kids, and I'm going to be comfortable here for a couple of years. And over time, as you're paying your mortgage and you're paying down the debt that you have on the purchase of the home, and because in most years, home prices increase, they appreciate in value 1 to 3 or 4% a year annually, right along with inflation and right along with the value of money. In 3, 4, 5 years, that home that you put 3.5% down on, between paying down paying down your mortgage and the equity increase from the value increase, you now have 10 or 12% of value in that home. And so you may have put, $10,500 down on your down payment. And when you sell the house, you now have 25 or 30 or 35 or $40,000 left after the sale. And you can go ahead and you can move up to a $450,000 or $500,000 house, again, putting only 3.5% down. And you've now moved up in value of the home and in the size and in the community that you want to be in. And keep that home for a period of time until you've built up again enough equity so that you can sell that home and move up to a $700,000 or an $800,000 home. And over time, if you do this 3 or 4 times over a 15 or 20-year period, that first $300,000 home is going to enable you to ultimately end up in your dream home, $1 million home that doesn't have a huge mortgage, because every time you sell that home, you have more equity that you can put into your next home. And so what you've done is you've not only built the satisfaction of having ultimately your dream home, but you also have built the satisfaction ultimately of having, when you sell that home, if you need to at the very end, a pretty sizable amount of money saved and not taxable for you to use for what is important to you at that time in your life. Your home is something that you can love, and it's something that should love you back, physically, emotionally, and financially. But how many folks do we know, Stephanie, that have done that, have moved up and moved up, and have really used the house both as a great way to, move up, in their lifestyle, and also move up financially?
A lot of people have done that. And also other things people have done is when they build that kind of equity that you're talking about, they might want to go off and buy a vacation home so they can use the equity in their house. And there are loans, they're called bridge loans, that will allow them to go off and buy a lake house. So now they have a vacation home, or they buy a piece of property that they want to use as a rental. It is something that we educate people when they come in to think about. We put it all out there. We're just not about selling them that one house and moving on. We're about using real estate to help your financial future. So I don't know off the top of my head how many, but a good portion of them. I know that there's that one guy that I think Josh works on. I mean, I don't know. He's bought like 10 houses already. He keeps doing this. And, he started out with, $150,000 townhouse, and, he probably moved like 10 times.
And he uses those homes and some of the equity in those homes to become a landlord, so that people who think, can I buy, should I buy, and they rent, well, they pay him. And the money that they pay him now as a landlord, in addition to the house that he lives in,
Right.
gives him the ability to build even more wealth by having more equity, by being able to buy more property. One of the great things about real estate is it can be, if you take care and you take care of it, it can be forever. And that's one of the things that we like most about how we can help people to use that to gain value in their life and not just have a place to come home to.
Right. So going back to our first statement, should you wait or should you buy now? You should buy now.
Because it's to your advantage.
Absolutely.
In business and in real estate is business. That is probably the most important thing, is that it is almost always of greater value to you than you imagined that it would be.
Yep.
So let's wrap this up by saying that you can go and buy a wonderful home that can be of greater value to you, and you can enjoy, because you're living in Metro Atlanta, some of the great events and some of the great places around the city and in the suburbs and surroundings that you can just get out there and have a good time with. Steph, just give us a quick recap of the three different nifty places and things to do that are coming up and what you can do, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay, so the first one I talked about was the Roswell Summer Puppets and More, taking place at the Roswell Cultural Arts Center all summer long. Check it out. Get online. Roswell Cultural Arts Center. The second thing I talked to you about was the Chattahoochee Nature Center with the butterfly exhibit, learning how to canoe, 127-acre nature center right on the Chattahoochee River. That is in pretty much Cobb County. Yeah, pretty much Cobb County. Check it out. Stuff going on all year long there. And the third thing I told you about was Hard Lake was another state park out near the I-20 Covington area called Hard Labor Creek State Park. And if you own a horse, if you like horseback riding, the trails are magnificent. It was so much fun. We did it for years and years. We owned horses. We'd drag them out there. We'd stay in the cabin. The kids were little. We had a ball. Check that out. Hard Labor Creek State Park. And that's what I had for you today.
Yep, and I will tell you that back in the day when we did own horses, doing those trail rides at Hard Labor Creek State Park was one of the most beautiful land rides that you can take. And you don't have to have a horse in order to be able to walk those trails. You can just walk those trails,
right,
and have a grand time, feeling that you are out in the middle of this amazing forest, less than an hour away from being in the center of downtown. Hard Labor Street, great park. It's a great place to go. So, on behalf of Stephanie, I want to thank you for joining us this week for ATL Home Market. And if you enjoyed what you've heard and you like what we talk about on YouTube, like us. And if this is the first time that you've joined us, subscribe to the channel so that you can see and hear what are the things that we talk about on a regular basis that I think will be both fun and valuable for you as you think about real estate and how that has value in your own lives. And if you would like to learn more, you can certainly call us at the phone number that's with this podcast. You can call us or text us, or click on any of the links that gives you additional information about what we've talked about today, or any other things that you'd like to know about real estate. So again, on behalf of Stephanie and myself and your Home Sale Guaranteed Realty and the Miskin team, thank you for watching ATL Home Market, and we look forward to seeing you again.
All right. Have a great weekend and happy Father's Day out there to all you fathers on Sunday.
For sure.